We are competing in, we are repeating in, we are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
And we're live. So hello everyone and welcome to Best for the World broadcast. Today I have with me two guests and friends of mine, Bert-Ola Bergstrand, who is in the heart of Sweden, Östersund, and Christiana, who is in the heart of Greece. So welcome. Hello Bert-Ola and Christiana. How are you?
Very good. It's sunny as always up here in the heart of Sweden. Great day.
And it is very sunny, and our national day today in Greece as well. So
awesome.
We're celebrating our independence and our being Greeks.
Yeah.
So happy National Day to Greece.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start asking you, Christiana. What have you been up to? We haven't kept up to date, but what are you working on right now for a better world?
For a better world. You see, we had this vision of transforming a mountain into a regenerative nature factory and protect the natural environment. This was back a few years, the vision. Now let's make it happen. So we started connecting with several people. Impact Journey was very much into our rescue and introduced us to the world of the internet and social media. Then we went to the people that are already doing very profound work, such as Gunter Pauli. Then I started making a small team of people, and we now established the mushroom facility, mushroom production on olive branches, and we are presently working on algae and reforestation of marine environment, and of course building an academy where young people learn, but also learn the business of nature-based materials. So that's what we are up to.
Yeah, awesome. And Bert-Ola, what have you been up to lately in making a better world? The latest update from Bert-Ola.
Well, it's more or less what I have been doing the last almost 20 years now. As it says on my Facebook profile, connecting people, passion, and places. So that's basically what I do from morning to evening every day. So I think when you build good relations, that transforms in a better society, better world. I strongly believe that. So that's the core of what I do. Then I'm involved in a lot of different projects. On the one interesting project right now that I've been involved in the last months is Samverket, a co-creation arena for public sector in Sweden. where I've been helping the county here where I live, the county of Jämtland Härjedalen, to see how they can adopt a co-working strategy for a county. Very much the similar work to what I've been doing in Norway the years before. So a lot of like remote work, hybrid work, friction in collaboration, how you can open up, what are the tools you need to have. So that's one thing. And then I'm part of United Cities in Norway since a long time. What I've been working on in Norway is more city development. We started to develop the Learning Society framework many years back, and that's like evolving step by step. I did a workshop a few days back in a city in mid-Norway where they build a new campus. So they need to develop communities of practice with different stakeholders to build a city. And then I do things online and a bit all over the place. Catapult in Oslo, another thing that I'm involved in and like that. So yeah, so a little bit about me.
Yeah, great. And then maybe it's time for me to also fill in the blanks. I've been doing some talks about what I've been up to for the last couple of years as well. Mainly I'm working on this framework of future navigation that me and Bert-Ola and Carl started, and I did a great presentation in December on that, and I've been continues to developing much from the feedback I got from that presentation. So now, and I did some talks about identity and roles and much of the role of the future navigator that me and Bert-Ola call ourselves, and the weaver as well, the network weaver. And finally, it's many of the pieces that we've been talking about for many years are lighting up the light in other people here as well during this conversation. So it's very interesting to see how we can bring our three competences together for a better world. And like there's so much work that's been done during the last decade and more, but many of the stories we've been working on the edge, let's say, like the edge work is now coming into the next step. Many more people are asking questions about the next step of society and things like that. So very curious to see what that could be and would be. What are your thoughts on that? What are the hard work we put down coming into fruition, coming into the next step, or what are the next steps for building a better world? Christiana,
you start.
Yeah, if I may. Well, first of all, creating awareness is a very important step in the process. Not all communities and not all societies are very ready to embrace the new reality. They do not understand it, they do not know it. They are people are very safe in the old ways, even though they are becoming aware that they must be doing something, but they don't know what. And I think this is the role of most people, that they want really to help the transition, is to find a map, to find some way of bridging from the old ways to the new ways. And it's not an easy task. It's a very arduous task. I was very lucky to have people supporting me, like when you came into Greece with Evolutionary Futures Institute, and we opened up the community into methodologies like the World Cafes. Now when they hear the World Cafe, they are very proud and they say, oh, we did that as well, and they are working on this. So you need to open up doors and you need to change the narrative. I think those two things, raise awareness and change the narrative, are the two steps that they are extremely important in the process of change.
Yeah, that's great. Like the narrative is something that it's part of what we do. Let's explain. The narrative is a behavioral pattern that we humans do. Narratives can be hidden inside stories. Narrative is hidden inside our daily activities as human. Narratives are inside all the policies and the cultural behavioral patterns we have in a society, and the patterns inside what we do on a daily or yearly or basis in society. That's what we call narrative. And narrative can be like a way to do things, a way to tell things, a way to think about things. And it's a very wide term, but it's perfect in that essence, because narratives are very, very wide. It can be very, very many different things, but they're behind human behavior. Let's say that. And Bert-Ola, what are your take on what do you see now coming out? We have been like away from COVID and things, like what's happening in the world right now in this decade.
Sometimes surprises happens, or maybe not surprises, but it's of course we had a year of the big conflict in Ukraine, Russia, for example. Maybe it was not a surprise to everyone, but because it's has been a lot of friction between around those borders. But I think I remember an article a few weeks or a few months back about the black swan. It's like a lot of stuff coming together now with climate change and conflicts, and that's on the negative side. So we see a lot of these patterns emerging. On the other side, we have like ChatGPT, all these new AI tools, regenerative AI and everything that makes knowledge work so much more, at least potentially so much more efficient. So we have like two forces there. We have all the big challenges coming together, but on the other side you have the global brain and the creativity and the human potential as never before. So it will be very interesting to see the coming years how people using the new tools out there hopefully will come together and start to solve some of these really big challenges that we are facing.
My take on that is like many people, a lot of people actually never were on Zoom or Teams or a video conference before COVID. So a lot of the change in society today is people are very, very more skillful and aware of the type of global collaboration you can do with the tool. We're on Zoom right now, but this is nothing new for us, but it was new for many people, and it brought the world to a lot closer together and open up for all kinds of new opportunities and collaboration, I think. So what's your thought on that, Bert-Ola? Like what happened when people realized that we can talk with each other on a whole new level?
It's still emerging field, but it is some sort of before and after pandemic.
Yeah.
So you can definitely see a shift. I remember we did the first online event, and I met Christiana many years back on internet. When we did the first digital journey, hybrid journey, was 2011, and we did this with Google Zoom, and that was, I mean, up to 2019, so 8-9 years, digital, physical journeys together. And people were a bit, not laughing, but it was like a small nerd community almost. And suddenly people, I mean, the big bulk of people were forced to go digital to survive or to communicate.
Yeah, you can see all kinds of like both memes and stories about people suddenly building home studios and using this tool on a level never seen before.
Yeah, and I have several stories I could tell, but I think to many of these people who had not been online, I think pretty soon they saw that things worked better than they thought. And I know some cases. One of my friends in Trondheim works on a tech company. They do set up renewable energy out in the oceans, the big oceans. So they look at waves, energy from waves, and look at, are they good enough, the waves, to put up this big wind power generators. And when they started to work from home, they increased the production in the company with 30-40%, being distant. Maybe 50, 60 people working in the company. Just one example. So, and I'm sure there are a lot of companies out there and people who realize that this worked better than they thought. And now we are with this practice. So what has happened is pretty clear, I think, in social media. If you spend some time in social media landscape, it's much more professional now than it was before pandemic. It's not enough these days to just have a Facebook page and a group and like randomly share a few links and get attention, because it's much more professional. So it's not good enough if you don't care. And the second is that the space is so much more crowded than it was before, because everyone has a Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, all this, and they have, of course, everything additionally as well. They want a community, because this professionalization, these courses and everything that a lot of people have taken during the pandemic has led to that they see they need these tools to, if you're a business or NGO or individual or whatever there. So
yeah, that digital awareness and that digital professionalism that wasn't there before. For many, this was still a playground in the sense that it wasn't for them still. But but also, Christiana, I wanted to ask you. Go, Bert-Ola.
One more thing also. The other big thing happening now, especially 2023, with the AI and these new tools from Microsoft and like that, and regenerative AI with Google, and it starts to be very difficult to see what's real or not, because the pictures are so identical with videos and everything. So that is a bit of how will we cope with the reality in the years to come when we don't know what's fake or not. So that's like a uncertain area ahead to deal with. Yeah, that's some point for me.
You see, the pandemic for us worked in a very good way, because imagine that when I started, I was seeing my village and it was empty. I have said many times before, 10 people live in a village and all the youth is gone. And all the young people are going outside of Greece to find some kind of job and some kind of life. Now, with my colleague, that I am saying, okay, we can organize and we can repopulate and we can render this empty village as a productive village, but in a pilot regenerative way. Let's not make the mistakes of the past. Let's have a tangible example of something that is working better. Imagine if I had to do that 10 years ago. I would not be able to create a community. Now I'm creating a community digitally. I'm inviting people to come and live in this village, and they could be digital nomads working somewhere else, but at the same time going into a forest, having a forest shower, doing food forest, doing carbon measurements, doing dataverse. All this is good. All this is helping me get all kinds of people together in order to make a dream come true. So with the pandemic and with all the obstacles that we were faced, there is also good news. we could have what it is called a hybrid society. We can build the community digitally, and then we can invite people physically. And of course, AI is with us. And imagine that we could be engaging people to show the region. We could be engaging people in measuring the wealth and measuring the improvement. So it is not all bad. Of course, there are bad things, but I believe that there is great influence and a greater perspective to build a new kind of society out of this calamity.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Like the way forward, even there, like this hybrid society that we have been pioneering for so long, that it finally comes into the next level. I see, and we termed a name for it, like we call this the future village. It's the combination of the modern village, a combination of the traditional village, but foremost the combination of the digital village, and together they form the future village. How do you navigate your own future village? And in this essence, in the traditional village, everyone lived in the same village. You knew everyone, and everyone in your village had lived in the same village. But then we came the modern village. We moved into cities. We spread out our families and friends over over the countries and even the world. And you kept in contact with some of them. So your village was not the same as most of the other people in your village. Some of them, like in your workforce or in your family, you were in the same village, but you had friends over the world that other people in your village didn't have. But then came the digital village with the internet, and your village looked totally different. Your friends was mostly not the same as your friends' villages. But when you combine this together, you really realize that your close friends and social network is not the same as other people's in your network. And that's super interesting when you start thinking about how do you maintain and relationships and everything inside and keep people up to date. And we do in your future village. We've been doing it mostly on social media. So your family and friends also went digital. So you can see what they did for the weekend, what they did for the holidays on Facebook, even if they're in your closest family. But on a level you never did before, because then you had to call everyone and update them before internet on the telephone. But now we have updated much more about how we live, how we're doing, and most people don't post everything that's good or bad. Mostly not bad, but some do. But in a sense, we're much richer because we can see the gaps. We can see that they tell one story, but maybe they do something else on the weekend, and we can call them and build more relationships with them. But it's super fascinating to see this experiment. This is on a level we never seen before the last 25 years with the internet on this level, like building this. Everyone has their future village, and it comes together as a global village, because everyone, like we know, are connected to each other now, thanks to degrees of separation. We know that the degrees of separation in the world is fantastic. And how the next question in this, what's the next step this decade for the hybrid village or the future village? What's the next step? How to make this work? Because it requires work for everyone as well.
If I may just answer this, I think that reconnecting to nature, that we have been really destroying, is the very essence of the next step. And I believe that if we reconnect with nature in a village setting or in a rural setting, that can be felt and can be experienced in a more profound way. You are very much very close to nature, and you are very inspired by nature. So I guess then the next step to that is if you bring nature into the boardroom, if you bring nature close to businesses, and then all together converge. Society, different players, academics, civil society, and businesses. They all understand that we are so interconnected, and unless we give a very much opportunity to work in and for nature. We should not be working for shareholders. We should be working for nature in order for all of us and for other species and for all life to survive.
Yeah, thank you. Like you said, that work close to nature. We can see that there is a small trend of many people meetings that you had in the office before the pandemic. Now it was possible to bring people on Zoom or Teams in your pocket and go for a walk or a bike tour in nature while holding a meeting at the same time. And not everyone did this, but I did it, and I have seen. I have seen no report about it, but maybe Bert-Ola know if there's a report how many people actually went into nature during meetings and stuff like that, to see if we can find that. But it would be interesting to see how many people went closer to nature while still working. So you combine being in the sunshine or in the forest or by the sea while still having a meeting or working and things like that. But also, like you said, we have to work for nature, for the biosphere. It's our home, it's our planet, it's our spaceship Earth, like I say. And we have to become the crew members, the stewards, the caretaker of this biosphere and ship. So, what are your take, Bert-Ola? What on this?
Yeah, I think I can just agree to what Christiana said. I grew up in nature more or less, and I spend a lot of time in nature. So, with some in betweens in cities and like that, but yeah, to make nature is normal. That's where I like.
Yeah, and we can all check out your Facebook flow and see your pictures from the snow you went in today and before during this winter. So if you check out Bert-Ola's Facebook flow, you will know what he's talking about.
But but I agree with Christiana there. So of course it will take. You have this traditional. If you speak about innovation. One thing that I think is missing, a missing piece that needs to come, we need to find new ways of doing it in the coming years. If we are going to solve the big problems there, is to find the new type of legislations, the new rules, the new, the business as we know it has been out there for a very, very long time. I think if you looked at industrialization and capitalism and like that, it's like 200 years soon. So it's and the company model, how we know it with the stakeholders and all the legislation built around it. And that's not taking nature into consideration. So we haven't been innovative enough in the legislative way. In technology, yes, but not in the rules. And like Leif Edvinsson often say, the societal innovation, the rules of society.
Yeah, I think there's an example. I don't know if it's New Zealand. Do you know? But I've heard that some country made like rivers and other forests, and that they made them official legal stakeholders with a legal status. So they have when you have a meeting, there's a representative for the river or something like that. I don't know where and when it was.
Yeah, I think Ecuador and some countries in Latin America have started it. But that's a missing point. If we are going to deal with these ecological questions there, and because it's more like when we have this impact investing space, social entrepreneurs, from a critical perspective. I know Indy Johar speaks about the bubblegum economy. It's so small if you look at the overall economy. It's like it's 1% of the financial assets in the world. So it's like if we are really going to take on these big challenges we need to find new ways of of organizing. Technologies are out there, and AI and all these tools come there, so that's great. But I think we are lagging in that sense, and also like stakeholders as we know it, like civil society or the third sector or social economy or whatever you call it. And then the business, like I said, what is a business? What is the enterprise? And what is the municipality? What's the governmental sector? We take that for granted today after plus 100 years, but that needs also to follow into some new form. Like the cooperative, like Christiana speaks about, I think, a little bit. It has been, if you look at the cooperative in Sweden, it has... it's part of the social economy, and social economy in Sweden is less than 10% of the employees as an economy, if you look at from a traditional sense. So these new forms should have a possibility to grow in the years to come there, and hopefully have a more dominant position in some years.
Yeah, what I'm immediately thinking about here is like the opportunity to build a chat GPT client that roles play the river, or roles play the forest, or roles play the village you live in, so they can have a voice in a meeting live, and you have a voice, you have some transcription there, so when someone talks about the forest can raise its voice and talk back. What do you think about that, Christiana? That possibility of using modern technology to role play the stakeholders that are non-human?
Oh yeah, but who is going to allow it to be as a player? And I think I agree with Bert-Ola there in the fact that we are lagging behind in policy. Like, imagine if I would go to my local council and I would say, well, I need to have an empty seat here for nature or for our river. I think that they would, kind of look at each other and get me into the nut house, because this is not acceptable.
Yet.
Of course, in few years from now, it will be very acceptable, especially if there are natural calamities. When people are starting to realize, look, profits, they cannot go on forever in terms of extracting from nature and never putting back anything. We cannot simply do that. This is a limited planet.
Yeah.
We cannot do that. We need to think putting things back. We need to think not extraction. But you see, this takes time. And I don't know, that's the fear that I have, that the way the destruction is happening, the rate that the destruction is happening is catching up with the rate of not changing. The not changing is very slow. The destruction part is exponential and fast. We are doomed to go crash. I hope that we do enough between us that we are going to have an impact faster than we have destruction. Every day that I get up, I only can do my part. I cannot do the rest of the part.
Yeah, but that's great. But the challenge for us, the three of us, though, people listening here, is to find a playground, to find the test beds where we can play with this and showcase the good examples of actually including a non-human stakeholder in a playful way, either a human role-playing them or a chat GPT representing them in some way, or another AI. But for us, it is to showcase and find a playground. So playground is a fantastic type of event when you can experiment and get together and do stuff in a relaxed or unproductive and innovative way. So what's your take, Bert-Ola? What can we find the good examples where we can start playing with new types of doing this representation?
They are popping up all over the world. So it's like I think Christiana is building a sort of a playground where she is. I visited an interesting playground just, like I said, in Kristiansund, a small city in mid-Norway, just a few days back. And 20,000 people, building new ways of working together. I shared to a few other people the last days around Bygdebox and like Future Village in Norway, Stockholm. You have seen these images from this Viking building where they have a maker space, they have bakery, they have event place, they have co-working place, they have new building houses where you can rent or you can live. Like all elements of building a society together are in this Stockholm. I can share it later, in an island north of Trondheim. You have another village called Tranö, which is in the north, even further up north along the Norwegian coastline, where they also have built like a future village prototype for harsh conditions. So, and there are many others. Look at what Rehan is building in Karachi, sort of a school, community, mentorship. Carl is living there now on the second floor, I heard, a friend of us. So it's like many of these new sort of playgrounds emerging. And I think when it comes to the digital space and spaces overall, reality and space, I mean, as I have seen it since I started to look at relational economy, social capital, it's something between people. You don't know exactly what's the power between people are in this evolution, but I think it's the infrastructure between people, the spaces that are being built now, step by step. So we will see and sense the relational economy more and more in the years to come. And that will enable learning and different initiatives, motivation, empathy, whatever you put into from a positive side. Of course, you also have the negative side. It will be, so it's always this battle between good and bad in this dimension. But that's what I'm looking forward to very much of when we have this new infrastructure that really can enable agency to do something we would like to do, ambition to do.
And if I may add, Bert-Ola,
yeah,
I don't know how the other people did it. I don't know how the other people did it, but what we are lacking here, in my example, are funds to start, you see? And this we have to change, because if we are to transition, we need to be very creative and find alternative ways of, like the capital that is needed is both financial and human.
Yeah.
We need both. We cannot do that only on, okay, just take money and then we'll do it. It doesn't work that way. You're very right, Bert-Ola. The relationship is extremely important, but without money, I don't know how the people in Sweden did it, but I am having real trouble convincing government, convincing locals. If you don't have the money, people don't believe that this can be happening. So we need to solve the equation on financing and capital. We need to use money for good, not money for profits only.
Yeah. No, but that's what I mean, that with the whole infrastructure there, with how you look at resources, what is a resource? When we speak about my professor in accounting, he always said that the difference between resource and capital is that capital is a formation of resources. When you know how to use this type of resource, it is sort of a productive resource, a capital. But resources are more open, and capital is more that you can use it in a deliberative way. And we have this with the new frameworks of social capital, the relation. We have the human capital, our brains, our thinking. We have the creative capital, our potential of do things. and it's putting names of different types of resources. And if you go back further back in time, we had just money or the finance, and we didn't see the other resources. I think that's, and like I said, now we see more, understand more how it fits together. And with all these new technologies, blockchain and evolution of AI and other tools, this is part of the whole ecosystem that will, I think, over time enable us to work more productively together using different types of resources. But we are still in this economy, the traditional economy, where finance is everything, and of course industrial environment, the house, property, and so forth, the tangible assets, the things we can see and control. But in a knowledge human economy, it's more the intangible assets, the people who can do things and like that. So, but it will take time. The question is there, how much time do we have?
Yeah, exactly. And
I think we will evolve there.
yeah, but if you're interested in the formation of the capital, my presentation from December, I'll link to it in the bottom of this YouTube video if you find it. That when I've divided it up to even more 11 categories of different capital and resources that we have to play with, and why finance is just one of them. The major one are the biosphere and energy. Nothing happens outside. Almost nothing happens outside the biosphere still, and everything that moves in our society or even runs on digital needs energy. So they are the two major players, and then we have the other 9 that plays together with them. So if you want to know more, and even contact me, because this is still a prototype, this model of resources. But we're gonna finish up, so I will give you, Christiana, and then Bert-Ola a finishing conversation here. So take it away, Christiana, first. What's your finishing thought about this conversation?
That when I go to the supermarket, I cannot tell them, would you like to take the new accounting, please, and give me, my food. I cannot do that. So my juggle in this life is to work and become autonomous and be in the new era and yet survive the old.
Yeah.
So I think that we cannot give up. We need to be working on finding new ways and be very creative.
Yeah, and Bert-Ola, what's your final take on this conversation?
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah, that's the song of AC/DC.
It's like, yeah, but it's like when I thought about this Thomas Power video. Thomas Power, you can go and have a look at this.
I'll link to that as well in the show notes.
Future of social networks. So a few days back, the time of Clubhouse 2-3 years back, Thomas Power was also there a lot. And we said that we had used his ORS thinking, open random supporter, from a closed selective controlling society. And he was so surprised. He didn't know us at all. And then I said, we have been using this mindset model for a decade now that you coined, and I've looked at his TED talk. And then the other day he shared it with his daughter and son, and they had a local conversation there and said that some crazy guys in Sweden had used this model. And then I looked at this video, and it's very spot on what he says in that social media talk from 2011. The only thing that is not in that talk is the AI part.
Yeah.
But in terms of that we have an information overload, we will need to navigate flows in new ways, and it's a lot of opportunities. That's exactly where we are today. So it will continue ahead. Yeah.
Thank you both, Christiana and Bert-Ola. And I finish up. This was a conversation about my main part is about the concept of the hybrid a hybrid village, or the digital village, or the future village, whatever we call it, how that works, and how that transformed during the last 3 years of COVID, and how we take it into this decade, and also talking a lot more about how can we use modern AI and other playful things to represent non-human stakeholders to get the conversation started on a whole new level, and like what do we do moving forward with this new types of playgrounds where of course we need the old world and money to finance it all, but we have to have the mindset and the narrative of the new world while doing it as well. So that, thank you both Bert-Ola and Christiana for coming, and reach out to me, Bert-Ola or Christiana, for further conversation about this. We're very curious and open to the next step of what we do with this, what we talked about here. So thank you all for coming. Goodbye. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, for
Great to see you, Christiana.
Yes, great to see you too. Thank you for existing.
Hope we meet soon.
Oh, yes.
Beside the internet, of course.
Of course.
Bye.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions